The marble floor of the 47th floor gleamed like a frozen lake under the LED chandeliers, every reflection screaming money, power, untouchable. Elias Grant stood at the center of the open-plan empire he'd built with teeth and claws, voice slicing through the hush like a guillotine. Somebody tell me why the hell this hallway still smells like cheap pine oil when I pay you parasites 8 figures to keep my name spotless. 73 pairs of eyes dropped to their monitors. Nobody breathed. Except one man. He was pushing a wide mop in slow, deliberate arcs, navy jumpsuit soaked at the cuffs, skin dark as midnight against the blinding white floor. A nobody. A ghost with a name tag that read J. King. Elias zeroed in on him like a shark scenting blood. You. Janitor. The word dripped venom. Do you even speak English, or did the agency just send me the discount diversity hire? Snickers rippled. Phones tilted up, recording. Elias basked in it. J. King kept mopping. No flinch. No glare. Just the wet slap of the mop head, steady as a heartbeat. Elias marched closer, Italian leather soles clicking. I asked you a question, boy. The janitor stopped. Slowly lifted his head. Eyes the color of molten amber locked on Elias, and something electric snapped across the room. Elias smirked wider. What, cat got your tongue? Or are you too busy dreaming of the welfare check you'll cash after I fire your lazy? The janitor's sleeve snagged on the mop handle. Fabric tore upward. And there it was, burned into the man's forearm in brutal black ink. A serpent devouring its own tail, circled by 7 tiny stars, exactly 7, and in the center, a crown split perfectly in half. Every drop of blood in Elias Grant's body turned to ice. His mouth opened. No sound came out, because that tattoo wasn't random. That tattoo was the mark of the ghost who saved his life 23 years ago in a rain-soaked alley in Juarez. The ghost he betrayed. The ghost he thought he'd killed. The janitor, J. King, leaned in just enough for Elias alone to hear, voice low and lethal. Hello, Elias, or should I say little brother? The mop hit the floor with a wet smack that echoed like a gunshot. 73 phones froze midair. And Elias Grant, the untouchable king of Wall Street, felt his entire empire crack straight down the middle. Hey you, yeah, you, the one whose pulse is hammering right now, drop a fire in the comments and tell me where you're watching from before you even think about scrolling. Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens when the janitor takes everything. Trust me, you'll thank me later. The silence lasted exactly 4 heartbeats. Then the open-plan floor detonated into chaos. Whispers, gasps, someone's latte hitting the carpet like a bomb. Elias couldn't hear any of it. The only sound in his skull was the rain from 23 years ago, drumming on corrugated tin while a 12-year-old boy bled out against his chest. J. King, Jamal King, never broke eye contact. The mop lay forgotten between them, a puddle spreading like spilled secrets. Elias's security chief, a brick wall named Torres, started forward. Elias threw up one trembling hand. Torres froze. Jamal's lips curved, slow, lethal, the same half-smile that once promised a scared kid he'd live to see sunrise. You look good in a suit, Eli, Jamal murmured, voice velvet over broken glass. Always did like playing dress-up. A junior analyst in the back actually whimpered. Elias found his voice, but it came out cracked. Everybody out. Now. No one moved until he roared it. Then it was a stampede. Heels clacking, chairs rolling, phones abandoned mid-record. The glass doors hissed shut behind the last straggler, leaving only the 2 men and the smell of pine cleaner thick enough to choke on. Elias's knees nearly buckled. He gripped the edge of a desk to stay upright. Jamal crouched, picked up the mop, wrung it out with deliberate calm. Water dripped like a countdown. You used to call me Jay, he said softly. Remember? Back when you couldn't pronounce Jamal without lisping. Elias's throat worked. I buried you. You buried a death certificate you paid a crooked doctor to sign. Jamal straightened. Difference of opinion on whether I was actually dead. The tattoo flexed as Jamal rolled his sleeve higher, revealing scar tissue that crawled up his arm like lightning frozen mid-strike. Bullet went in here. He tapped just below the serpent's head, came out here. He turned, showing the exit scar puckered over his shoulder blade. You were screaming so loud I thought my eardrum would burst. 12 years old and already a better liar than me. Elias's vision tunneled. He saw it all again. The alley, the cartel runners, the gun pressed to his temple. Saw Jamal, 19 fearless, stepping in front of the barrel without hesitation. Heard the shot. Felt the warm spray across his face. He'd crawled out from under Jamal's body at dawn, covered in blood that wasn't his, and ran until Manhattan swallowed him whole. Reinvented himself. Erased the past. Became Elias Grant, the orphan who built an empire from nothing. Except the past was standing 3 feet away, breathing. Jamal's eyes softened a fraction. I looked for you, little brother. 10 years. Every foster home, every juvenile record. Then one day I saw your face on the cover of Forbes, America's youngest self-made billionaire. Had to sit down right there on the sidewalk. Elias laughed, a broken sound. You could have called, emailed, shown up at any gala with that ink on your arm, and watched me hit the floor. Could have, Jamal agreed. But I wanted to see what kind of man you grew into when you thought no one was watching. He stepped closer. Close enough that Elias smelled the faint cedar of the janitor's closet mixed with something darker. Gun oil, maybe. Memory. Jamal lowered his voice to a whisper that scraped Elias's soul raw. Tell me, Eli, when you step over people to get to the penthouse, do you ever feel me bleeding under your shoes? Elias flinched so hard his spine hit the desk. Jamal's gaze flicked to the ceiling cameras, red lights blinking. Smile, brother. Whole boardroom's watching the feed right now. Bet they're popping popcorn. Elias's head snapped up. He'd forgotten the security monitors. Forgotten everything except the ghost in front of him. Jamal reached into his pocket slow, deliberate. Pulled out a crumpled pack of cinnamon gum. Same brand they used to steal from the corner bodega. Offered a piece. Elias stared at it like it might explode. Go on, Jamal said. For old times. Fingers shaking, Elias took the gum. The second the wrapper crinkled, he was 12 again, hiding behind a dumpster while Jamal counted stolen quarters for a slice of pizza. Jamal's smile faded. Clock's ticking, Mr. CEO. You've got about 6 minutes before Torres overrides the lockdown and drags me out in cuffs. So ask the question you're choking on. Elias's voice cracked like ice. Why now? Jamal's eyes, those amber eyes that once stared down a loaded gun, filled with something ancient and exhausted. Because your empire's built on my grave, Eli. And I'm here to collect the rent. He turned toward the elevator, mop over his shoulder like a rifle. See you tomorrow, little brother. Same time. Try not to wear the Tom Ford. Bloodstains are a bitch to get out. The elevator dinged. Jamal stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby, and just before the doors closed he looked back. Oh, and Eli? Next time you call a man boy in front of 73 people, make sure he didn't once take a bullet for you. Doors shut. Elias slid down the desk until he sat in the puddle of pine-scented water, cinnamon gum burning his tongue, the taste of 1997 flooding back so hard he gagged. Up in the security booth, Torres watched the CEO of Grant Global sob like a child on a 4K monitor and quietly turned the feed off. He'd seen enough. The elevator doors had barely sealed when every screen in the executive corridor exploded with red. Alert, security breach, level 47, biometric override. Elias was still on the floor, knees soaked, when the lights cut to strobing crimson. The building's AI voice, calm, female, terrifying, spoke from hidden speakers. Code Obsidian. All elevators locked. Containment protocol engaged. Lethal force authorized. Elias's head snapped up. Code Obsidian was his own doomsday switch. The one he'd coded himself after a Russian oligarch tried to kidnap him in Dubai. It sealed the building, armed the rooftop turrets, and turned every hallway into a kill box. He'd just trapped his brother inside a fortress designed to murder intruders. Elias lunged for the nearest intercom. Torres! Stand down. That's an order. Static. Then Torres's voice, thin with panic. Sir, he's not in the elevator anymore. He's everywhere. Every monitor on the wall flickered to life. 73 different camera feeds. 73 different angles of Jamal King. Jamal in the server room, fingers flying over a keyboard that should have required level 9 clearance. Jamal in the boardroom, sliding a flash drive into the main projector port. Jamal in Elias's penthouse office 60th floor, leaning back in the leather throne, feet on the desk, sipping Elias's 1945 Macallan like it was Kool-Aid. Every feed time-stamped the exact same second. Elias's stomach dropped through the marble. Deepfake? No, too smooth. Too real. And every Jamal wore the same half-smile, the same janitor jumpsuit, the same serpent tattoo flexing when he moved. He bolted for the stairs, shoes slipping in pine water, tie flapping like a surrender flag. 47 flights. Lungs on fire. Security doors hissed open for him, facial wrecks still recognized the king, and slammed shut behind like guillotines. He hit the 60th floor gasping, clawing for the retinal scanner outside his office. The door slid open. Jamal sat exactly where the monitor showed him, swirling amber liquid in a crystal tumbler. But he wasn't alone. A woman stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, Manhattan glittering behind her like a crown of knives. She turned. Elias forgot how to breathe. Selena Vance, Dr. Selena Vance, the neuroscientist he'd poached from MIT with a $50 million grant, the one whose quantum encryption patents underpinned half his empire, stood in a midnight blue gown that cost more than most people's houses, hair twisted up with a diamond pin shaped like the same serpent tattoo. Her smile could have frozen hell. "Evening, Mr. Grant," she said, voice like smoked honey. Or should I say, Elias Morales? The name he'd buried in Juarez hit him like a sledgehammer. Selena stepped aside, revealing a hollow projection blooming above the desk. Birth certificates, crime scene photos, dental records. A 12-year-old boy covered in blood. A 19-year-old listed DOA. And right in the center, a grainy CCTV still of Elias, 12, terrified, being dragged out of that alley by a man whose face had been redacted. Except the redaction was peeling away in real time, pixel by pixel, revealing Jamal King's teenage grin. Selena tapped the projection. "You built Grant Global on blood money, Elias. Cartel cash you stole the night you let my fiancé die." Fiancé. The word detonated inside Elias's skull. Jamal raised his glass in a mock toast. "Surprise, little brother. Meet the woman who pulled me out of that morgue drawer when the coroner stepped out for a smoke. The woman who kept me alive for 6 months in a safe house while you were busy buying your first fake ID." Selena's eyes, storm gray and merciless, never left Elias. "I loved him enough to fake his death. You loved yourself enough to let the world think he was worm food." Elias's legs gave out. He hit the carpet hard enough to bruise. Jamal stood, walked over, crouched so they were eye level. "You're shaking," he whispered. "Good. Means you still have a pulse." He reached into his jumpsuit, pulled out a small black box the size of a deck of cards. Placed it on the desk. Elias knew that box. Everyone in tech knew that box. A quantum deadman switch. If Jamal's heartbeat flatlined, every server in the building would dump 23 years of encrypted files to every news outlet, every regulator, every rival on the planet. Selena leaned down, lips brushing Elias's ear. "Here's the new deal, Morales. You're going to confess. Live. On camera. Tonight. Every dollar you stole, every senator you bought, every body you buried. You tell the truth, and maybe, just maybe, we let you keep your life." Jamal straightened, voice suddenly soft. "Or you can hit that panic button under the desk. Call your mercs. Watch them gun me down again. But this time, Selena walks out with the switch, and the second my heart stops, your empire burns so bright the ashes will light up the whole goddamn Atlantic." Elias stared at the box. At the two people he'd betrayed more than any others on Earth. His hand crawled toward the panic button. Selena's smile vanished. "Choose fast, baby. Clock's ticking." Jamal's eyes, those amber eyes, filled with something that looked almost like hope. "Don't make me die twice, Eli." The room held its breath. Elias's finger hovered over the button that could end everything. And in that moment, every screen in the building went black except one. A single line of text glowed across the 60-foot window, visible to half of Manhattan. "Elias Grant is Elias Morales. The truth starts now." Somewhere below, sirens began to wail. Elias's hand fell away from the button. He looked up at the only family he'd ever had, and the woman who'd loved that family enough to become vengeance itself. His voice cracked like a child's. "What do you want me to say?" Jamal smiled for the first time without cruelty. "Say you're sorry, little brother. Then say it to the world." Selena hit a key on her phone. Every major news outlet pinged live. The red light on the camera above the desk blinked awake. Elias Morales, 12 years old again, covered in someone else's blood, stared into the lens and started talking. And the entire world leaned in. The live feed hit 200 million viewers in 97 seconds. Elias's face, pale, shaking, eyes red, filled every screen from Times Square to Tokyo. The confession poured out of him like poison he'd swallowed 23 years ago. Juarez. The cartel. The alley. The gunshot. The duffel bag with $3 million in cash he dragged through the storm drains while his brother bled out on the concrete. He didn't stop there. He named the shell companies. The senators who took envelopes in the back of black SUVs. The FDA official who buried the clinical trial deaths so Grant Global could IPO at $200 a share. The offshore accounts. The blood diamonds. The private jet that flew a 15-year-old girl out of Epstein's Island the night the FBI raided. Every word carved another piece of his empire away. And through it all, Jamal stood behind him, one hand resting on Elias's shoulder like a priest giving last rites. Selena stood on the other side, tablet in hand, streaming the feed to servers that no firewall on earth could touch. When Elias finally ran out of sins, his voice was gone. Just a rasp. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the camera. "I'm sorry to every person I stepped on. To every life I traded for a private island. And Jamal," he turned, tears cutting tracks through the city grime on his cheeks. "I'm sorry I left you in that alley. I'm sorry I spent your blood to buy this throne." Silence. 200 million people waiting for the axe to fall. Jamal leaned down, lips near Elias's ear, voice so low only he and the mic could hear. "Say the last part again. Louder. So the kids in foster care who think they're nothing can hear it." Elias lifted his head. "I was a scared little boy who chose money over family. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm begging for it anyway." Selena killed the feed. The screens went black. For one heartbeat the city held its breath. Then every phone in America exploded with notifications. Hashtag Elias Confesses trended worldwide in 6 minutes. The NYSE halted Grant Global stock. The FBI opened a case file so thick it crashed their server. And in the sudden vacuum of the darkened office, the three of them were alone with the wreckage. Elias slid off the chair, knelt on the carpet, forehead pressed to Jamal's boots. "I'll give it all away," he croaked. "Every cent. Just don't leave again." Jamal stared down at him for a long moment. Then crouched, cupped Elias's face in calloused hands. "I didn't come here to destroy you, Eli. I came here to remind you who you were, before the world taught you to be a monster." Selena's voice cut through, softer than anyone expected. "He's not the only one who forgot." She set the tablet down. For the first time, the Ice Queen mask slipped. Her hands shook. "I kept you alive, Jamal, because I couldn't bury the man I loved. But I buried everything else. My empathy. My name. My future. I became the weapon you needed to hurt him." She looked at Elias, eyes glittering. "And I hated you so much it kept me warm for 8 years." Jamal stood slowly, caught between the two people he'd crossed oceans of pain to reach. Sirens outside grew louder, NYPD, FBI, news choppers. The building was surrounded. Selena picked up the quantum deadman switch, thumb hovering over the trigger. One press and the rest of the files go live. The ones that name the vice president. The ones that prove half of Congress took cartel money through your shell companies. You'll be a hero to the public, Elias. A martyr. And you'll never see daylight again. Elias didn't look at the switch. He looked at Jamal. "Whatever you decide, I'm done running." Jamal took the switch from Selena's hand, gently, like disarming a bomb, and placed it on the desk. "No more bombs," he said. "Not tonight." He walked to the window. Manhattan burned red and blue below them. Selena's voice cracked. "Jamal, we didn't come this far to." He turned. "Tell me something, Sel. When's the last time you laughed? Like really laughed? Not the scary villain laugh you do when you're hacking the Federal Reserve for fun." She opened her mouth. Closed it. He stepped closer. "When's the last time you let someone hug you without calculating how to use it against them?" Her eyes filled. Jamal reached her in 2 strides, pulled her into his arms so hard her heels left the floor. She resisted for half a second, then shattered, face buried in his shoulder, sobs muffled against the same jumpsuit she'd watched him bleed out in. Elias watched them, chest aching like someone had cracked it open and poured sunlight inside. Jamal held out one hand without looking. Elias crawled forward, took it, let his brother pull him up and into the hug. 3 broken people clinging to each other while the city screamed for their heads. Minutes or hours later, time had stopped making sense, Jamal whispered. "We're leaving this building together. No cuffs. No cameras. Just us." Selena pulled back, mascara streaked like war paint. "They'll never let us walk." Jamal smiled, the real one, the one from rooftops and stolen candy bars. "Bet I can still hotwire a helicopter." Elias laughed. Actually laughed. The sound startled all 3 of them. Selena wiped her eyes. "You're insane. Runs in the family." They moved like a unit now, muscle memory from a lifetime ago kicking in. Jamal grabbed a duffel from the janitor's cart he'd wheeled up earlier. Inside, 3 black hoodies, fake badges, and a grappling rig he built from Home Depot parts. Selena killed the building's power grid with 2 taps on her phone. Every light died. Every camera. Every turret. Elias led them to the service elevator that only opened with his fingerprint, then peeled off the silicone print he'd worn for years and pressed Jamal's thumb to the scanner instead. Always kept one backup, he admitted sheepishly. The elevator dropped them to the sub-basement, where Jamal had stashed a matte black Indian Scout motorcycle behind the boilers. Selena stared. You planned this whole thing on a janitor's salary? Jamal tossed her a helmet. I had 8 years and a lot of rage. Turns out rage is a hell of a 401k. They roared up the ramp into the underground garage, Elias clinging to Jamal's waist, Selena's arms tight around Elias, 3 hearts hammering against each other's backs. Security floodlights snapped on, blinding. Torres stood in front of a dozen SWAT vans, rifle raised. Freeze. Hands in the air. Jamal killed the engine. For a heartbeat, everything balanced on a knife edge. Then Torres did something no one expected. He lowered his weapon. Stepped aside. Opened the passenger door of the lead Suburban. Clock's ticking, King, he barked. You've got 90 seconds before the feds override my command. Jamal revved the bike, shot forward, Selena and Elias ducking low. Torres slammed the door behind them as they blasted past, tires screaming. They hit the street doing 90, weaving through police barricades like water through fingers. Behind them, Grant Tower went dark, floor by floor, as Selena's final worm ate every trace of the confession video, replacing it with a single looping frame. A 12-year-old boy and a 19-year-old man hugging in the rain, time-stamped 1997. No faces. Just love. The bike screamed uptown, Harlem lights blurring past. Selena shouted over the wind, hair whipping like a battle flag. Where are we going? Jamal grinned so wide the city saw it from space. Home. They ditched the bike in a project's parking lot where kids were already stripping it for parts, payment for silence. Jamal led them up 6 flights of stairs that smelled like fried onions and hope. He unlocked 6B with a key he wore around his neck. Inside, a tiny 1-bedroom stuffed with plants, books, and a wall of photos, Elias at 12, graduation, first Forbes cover, every milestone Jamal had collected from afar like a proud big brother. On the kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper. A deed. To a community center in the Bronx, purchased 6 months ago under the name Morales Brothers Foundation. Elias picked it up with shaking hands. Jamal shrugged. Figured if I was going to tear your empire down, I'd build something better with the pieces. Selena traced the photos with one finger, stopping on one of her, younger, smiling, arm around Jamal at a science fair. I forgot I used to be happy, she whispered. Jamal pulled 2 beers and 1 soda from the fridge, handed the soda to Elias. Tonight we sleep, he said. Tomorrow we start fixing what we broke. Together. Elias looked at the deed, then at the 2 people who should hate him but were offering him redemption instead. He set the paper down, walked straight to Jamal, hugged him so hard they both stumbled. I don't know how to be a brother anymore, he choked out. Jamal ruffled his hair like he was still 12. Good thing I never forgot. Selena watched them, eyes shining, then stepped in, wrapping arms around both. Outside, helicopters circled. Inside 6B, 3 ghosts finally came home. But the night wasn't done with them yet. At 3:07 a.m., Selena's burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. A voice, distorted familiar, spoke 2 sentences that turned their blood to ice. You think confession erases blood? The cartel never forgets a debt. The line went dead. Jamal stared at the phone. Elias's hands went white on the table. Selena's face hardened back into the weapon they'd almost put away. Jamal was the first to move, pulling 2 duffels from under the bed, guns, cash, passports. Looks like vacation's postponed. Elias zipped the bag with steady hands now. Whatever it takes, he said. We face it together. Selena chambered a round in a pistol older than their sins. Together, she echoed. Jamal looked at the family he'd bled for, died for, come back for. Smiled like a man who'd already won. Then let's go remind some cartel princes what happens when you mess with the Morales brothers. They stepped into the hallway as one. The door locked behind them. And somewhere south of the border, a man with a serpent tattoo on his neck got the call that the ghost was alive. He smiled slow. Let the hunt begin. The burner phone buzzed again at 4:12 a.m., this time with coordinates. An abandoned textile warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. No signature. Just a single line of text. Come alone or the girl dies. Selena's fingers went white around the phone. Elias saw the name on the screen before she could hide it. Lila Vance, 9 years old, PS 112, loves unicorns. Selena's daughter. The one no one on Earth was supposed to know existed. Jamal didn't ask questions. He simply started loading magazines. Elias's voice came out small. Sel, you have a kid? Selena's laugh was hollow. I had 8 months in a safe house while the world thought Jamal was dead. Nature doesn't wait for perfect timing. Jamal's eyes flicked to her, something ancient and wounded flashing across his face. You never told me. I was going to. Then you disappeared for 3 years hunting cartel lieutenants in Sinaloa. I decided my baby deserved better than a ghost for a father. The room tilted. Elias whispered, She's ours? Selena met his eyes, fierce and terrified. She's mine. That's all that matters right now. Jamal zipped the duffel, voice steady as steel. Then we go get her. All 3 of us. They moved like soldiers who'd never stopped being brothers. Selena drove a stolen box truck with no plates. Jamal rode shotgun AR-15 across his lap. Elias sat in the back on an ammo crate, counting heartbeats. Red Hook at 4:47 a.m. smelled like rust and river rot. The warehouse squatted under a broken moon, windows blacked out, single floodlight over a rolling steel door. They killed the engine 2 blocks away. Selena's burner buzzed again. A photo. Lila, pigtails, unicorn pajamas, tied to a chair, tears cutting clean tracks through soot on her cheeks. A man in a serpent mask stood behind her, knife to her throat. Underneath, one line. Roof. Now. Only the janitor. Jamal stared at the picture so long the screen went dark. Then he handed the rifle to Elias. Second floor catwalk, east corner. You'll have a clean shot through the broken skylight. Selena hacks the lights. I walk in. You don't breathe until that mask hits the floor. Elias took the rifle like it was made of glass. Jamal. Don't. Jamal cut him off. Don't say sorry again. Just keep my daughter breathing. Selena's voice cracked. Our daughter. Jamal's smile was soft, lethal. Yeah. Ours. They moved. Selena disappeared into the shadows with a laptop and a drone the size of a dragonfly. Elias climbed a rusted fire escape, boots silent on the metal. Jamal walked straight up to the steel door, hands empty, and knocked 3 times. The door rolled up with a scream of old gears. Inside, one pool of light in the center of the warehouse. Lila on the chair. For cartel sicarios with automatic weapons. And the man in the serpent mask. He was taller than Jamal remembered. Older. The voice that came through the mask was pure Juarez gravel. Hola, Phantasma. Thought you'd stay dead this time. Jamal stepped into the light. Let the kid go, Mateo. This is between us. Mateo, the man who'd pulled the trigger 23 years ago, laughed. Between us? You stole $3 million and my little brother's loyalty. I've waited a long time to balance that scale. He pressed the knife harder. A bead of blood welled on Lila's throat. Jamal's entire body went still, predator still. Up on the catwalk, Elias sighted through the scope. Finger on the trigger. Wind steady. Distance 47 yards. But Mateo had planned for snipers. He snapped his fingers. Every light in the warehouse exploded in sparks. Total darkness. Then floodlights from the rafters blinded Elias. He dove sideways as bullets chewed the catwalk where he'd been standing. Down below, chaos. Jamal charged blind, shoulder-checking one sicario, taking his rifle, firing from the hip. Selena's voice crackled in their earpieces. I've got eyes, Thermal. Lila's clear in 3 seconds. Elias rolled, came up firing, dropped 2 gunmen. But Mateo had vanished with the girl. Jamal screamed her name, voice cracking for the first time since Juarez. A side door slammed. Elias vaulted the railing, landed hard, sprinted after Jamal. They burst into a loading bay. Dead end. Except for a shipping container, door ajar. Inside, Lila on the floor, unconscious, zip-tied. And Mateo, mask off now, smiling like the devil who'd finally caught up. He held a detonator. Welcome to the family reunion, Morales brothers. The container was wired with enough C4 to level 3 city blocks. Mateo's thumb hovered over the trigger. One press and the little princess paints the walls. You want her alive? You get in the cage with me. Both of you. Door locks from the outside. We settle this like the old days. Jamal looked at Elias. Elias looked at Lila's tiny chest rising and falling. They stepped inside without a word. The door slammed. Locked. Darkness. Then a single fluorescent bulb flickered on. Mateo tossed 2 knives on the floor. No guns. No tricks. Just blood. Jamal picked up a knife. You first. Mateo lunged. Steel rang on steel. Elias grabbed the second knife, circled, looking for an opening. Mateo was faster than any human should be, scars crisscrossing his arms like a map of every man he'd killed. He caught Jamal across the ribs, shallow but bleeding. Jamal hissed, spun, slashed Mateo's thigh. Elias saw his chance, went low. But Mateo was ready, kicked the knife from Elias's hand, sent him sprawling. Mateo pinned Jamal against the wall, blade to his throat. Remember this part, Phantasma? You bled so pretty last time. Jamal smiled through the blood. Yeah, but this time I'm not alone. Elias came up behind Mateo, wrapped an arm around his neck, knife to his kidney. Drop it. Mateo laughed. You won't kill me. You need me to disarm the bomb. Elias pressed harder. I don't need you alive to do that. Mateo's eyes widened. Jamal used the distraction, drove his knee into Mateo's groin, wrenched the detonator free. Elias shoved Mateo face first into the wall, zip-tied his wrists with the same ties that had held Lila. Selena's voice in their earpieces, frantic. Bombs on a 30-second timer. Get out now. Jamal scooped Lila into his arms. Elias grabbed Mateo by the collar. Disarm it or I start cutting fingers. Mateo spat blood. Too late. The timer on the wall hit 15 seconds. Selena screamed through the comm. I can't hack it. Biometric lock. Mateo needed his thumbprint. Elias didn't hesitate. He slammed Mateo's hand onto the scanner. The timer froze at 3 seconds. Red letters flashed, disarmed. The container door blew open from outside, Selena with a cutting torch, face streaked with soot and tears. She ran to Lila, checked her pulse, sobbed when tiny eyes fluttered open. Mommy. I'm here, baby. Mommy's here. Jamal sank to his knees, blood soaking his shirt, but he was smiling like a man who'd just won the lottery. Elias stood over Mateo, chest heaving. Mateo looked up, grinning through broken teeth. You think this ends it? The cartel has a long memory. They'll burn everything you love. Elias crouched, voice calm for the first time in 23 years. Then we'll burn them first. He looked at Jamal, at Selena cradling their daughter. And in that moment, something shifted inside Elias Morales, something that had been dead since the alley. He wasn't the billionaire anymore. He wasn't the orphan. He was a brother, a father, a man who would tear the world apart to keep his family safe. Selena met his eyes over Lila's head. For the first time, there was no hate in her gaze. Just exhausted, terrifying hope. Outside, dawn bled across the East River, painting the warehouse gold. Inside the container, for people who'd been broken by the same night 23 years ago, finally started putting the pieces back together. But the biggest revelation was still coming. Because Lila, 9 years old, unicorn pajamas torn and soot-stained, looked up at Jamal with giant brown eyes and whispered the words that rewrote every rule they thought they knew. Daddy, why does the bad man have the same tattoo as you? She pointed at Mateo's forearm. The serpent devouring its tail. 7 stars. Split crown. Exact match. Mateo laughed until he cried. Surprise, Phantasma, he wheezed. I'm not just the man who shot you. He looked at Jamal with eyes the exact shade of amber. I'm the man who helped make you. Jamal's knife clattered to the floor. Elias caught him before he fell. Selena's scream echoed off the container walls. Because the cartel wasn't coming for revenge. They were coming to collect their prince. And the ghost they'd tried to kill was the rightful heir to the throne. The warehouse was quiet except for the drip of blood hitting concrete. Jamal's knees hit the floor first. The knife spun away like it had a mind of its own. Mateo, zip-tied, bleeding, grinning like a skull, watched his son break with the satisfaction of a man who'd waited 23 years to twist the blade. Say it again, Mija, he cooed to Lila in perfect Spanish. Tell Daddy who I am. Lila shrank into Selena's arms, but her tiny finger stayed pointed at the tattoo. He has your snake, Daddy. Same stars. Same crown. Jamal made a sound that wasn't human. Elias lunged, fist cocked, but Jamal caught his wrist mid-swing. Don't, Jamal rasped. He wants you to. Mateo laughed until he coughed blood. You still protect him. After everything. That's adorable. Sirens outside now, close, too close. Selena scooped Lila up, backing toward the container door. We're leaving. Now. But the rolling door slammed down from the outside. Darkness swallowed them again. Red emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in hell light. A new voice echoed from hidden speakers, female, elegant, Spanish like a lullaby and a death threat. Hola, mijo. Did you miss your mother? Jamal's entire body went rigid. Elias whispered, "Who is that?" Jamal couldn't answer, because the woman who stepped out of the shadows was the ghost that haunted every nightmare he'd ever had. Isabella Reyes de Cortez, La Reina del Sur, head of the Cortez cartel, and the woman who'd sold her 19-year-old son to a rival crew for $3 million and a seat at the big table. She wore white linen, diamonds flashing at her throat, hair black as sin pulled into a severe bun. In her hand, a gold-plated desert eagle aimed at Lila's head. "Put my granddaughter down, Doctora," she said to Selena, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "Family reunion's just getting started." Selena froze. Jamal found his voice. "You sold me, Mama. You don't get to call her family." Isabella smiled like a shark. "I sold a disobedient dog. I bought back a prince. Look at you, alive, strong, beautiful. I always knew you'd crawl out of that grave." She gestured and 4 sicarios in serpent masks melted out of the dark, rifles trained. Elias stepped in front of Jamal. "Touch them and I swear." Isabella's laugh cut him off. The little thief from the alley. Still playing hero. She flicked her wrist. A sicario pistol whipped Elias across the temple. He dropped hard. Jamal roared, lunged, but 2 more guns jammed into his spine. Isabella walked a slow circle around her son. "You were supposed to die that night. Clean. Dramatic. The rival crew takes the blame, I get sympathy, consolidate power. But you survived. And you took my money." She cupped his cheek with the hand, not holding the gun. "Do you know how embarrassing that was?" Jamal spat in her face. She wiped it off with a manicured thumb, then backhanded him so hard his lips split. Lila screamed. Selena tried to run. A sicario ripped Lila from her arms, tossed the child to Isabella like a sack of flour. Isabella caught her easily, pressed the desert eagle under Lila's chin. "Watch your tone with your mother, Jamal." Jamal's voice cracked. "Let her go. I'll come home. I'll wear the crown. Whatever you want." Isabella's eyes softened, actually softened. "There's my good boy." She nodded to Mateo. "Cut him loose." Mateo sliced his own zip ties with a hidden blade, stood rubbing his wrists. Father and son faced each other for the first time in 23 years. Mateo opened his arms. "Come here, hijo." Jamal didn't move. Mateo's smile faded. "You'd choose them over blood?" Jamal looked at Elias bleeding on the floor. At Selena shaking with rage and terror. At Lila crying for her daddy. He looked back at Mateo. "I already did. The night you shot me." Mateo's face twisted. Isabella sighed. "Then we do this the hard way." She handed Lila to a sicario, raised the desert eagle, and shot Selena in the thigh. The sound was deafening. Selena screamed, went down hard, blood pooling fast. Lila wailed. Jamal lunged for Selena, but rifles slammed him back to his knees. Isabella crouched beside Selena, pressed the hot barrel to her cheek. "You stole my son's child, Doctora. I'm taking her back. And I'm taking him." She stood. "Load them up. The prince comes willingly, or we start removing pieces of his family. Starting with the little girl's fingers." Sicarios moved. Elias stirred, groaning. Jamal locked eyes with him across the container. Mouthed 2 words, "Trust me." Then Jamal stood slowly, hands raised. "I'll go," he said. "But you leave them here. Alive." Isabella smiled like Christmas came early. "Deal." They zip-tied Jamal's wrists behind his back. Mateo slung him over his shoulder like a sack. Isabella kissed Lila's forehead. "Say goodbye to your fake mommy, Princessa. You're going to meet your real family." Selena tried to crawl after them, leaving a trail of blood. "Jamal, don't please." Jamal looked back once. The man who'd survived a bullet to the chest, 8 years on the run, and his own resurrection looked like he was walking into the grave all over again. "I love you," he told Selena. Then to Elias, barely conscious. "Keep them safe, little brother. Whatever it takes." They carried him out. The container door slammed. Darkness. Selena's sobs echoed off metal walls. Elias dragged himself to her side, ripped his shirt, tied a tourniquet above the gunshot. "We're getting them back," he rasped. "I swear on my life." Selena's eyes were wild. "They're taking my baby to Mexico. Tonight. Private jet out of Teterboro. Once they cross the border." She couldn't finish. Elias pulled her against his chest, both of them shaking. Outside, engines roared. Helicopters. Then silence. They were alone. Selena's phone, shattered but working, buzzed buzzed in her pocket. A text from an unknown number. Video attached. She opened it with bloody fingers. Jamal on his knees in the back of a cargo van, Mateo's gun to his head. Jamal looked straight into the camera. "I chose this," he said, voice calm. "So you could live. Tell Lila her daddy loves her. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't be the hero this time." Mateo leaned in, whispered something they couldn't hear. Jamal's face went white. Then the video cut to black. Selena screamed until her voice gave out. Elias held her while she shattered, his own tears mixing with the blood on the floor. Because he knew what Mateo had whispered. He'd seen the lips move. "Tell your brother the empire was never his to lose. It was always yours to inherit." The cartel hadn't come for Jamal. They'd come for Elias. The spare heir. The one they could mold. Jamal had just traded his life to buy them time. And time was bleeding out. Selena passed out from blood loss. Elias carried her fireman style through the warehouse, out into dawn. Found Torres waiting with an unmarked SUV, face grim. "Get in," Torres said. "We've got 6 hours before that plane leaves Teterboro. After that, they're ghosts." Elias laid Selena in the back, pressed a trauma kit to her leg. "How many men can you trust?" he asked. Torres peeled out, tires screaming. "Enough." Elias looked at the city sliding past, then at the woman fighting for her life in his arms. He pulled the quantum deadman switch from Jamal's abandoned duffel, the one they'd left behind in the chaos. Thumb hovering over the trigger. If he pressed it, every secret Jamal and Selena had died to protect would flood the world. The cartel would fall. But Jamal would die in whatever hole they'd taken him to. Elias closed his fist around the switch. Not yet. First, he was getting his brother back. Then he'd burn the entire empire to the ground. Selena stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Elias, I'm here." Her hand found his, squeezed with the last of her strength. "Bring them home," she whispered. "Or we all die trying." Elias kissed her forehead, tasted blood and tears and 23 years of regret. "I already lost him once," he said. "Not again." Torres floored it toward the private airstrip, the sunrise bleeding red across the windshield. Behind them, Red Hook burned. Someone had torched the warehouse to cover tracks. Ahead, a war waited. And in a cargo van speeding south, Jamal King closed his eyes and prayed his family was strong enough to do what he couldn't. Forgive him for choosing the only way he knew how to save them. By walking straight into hell wearing his father's crown. Teterboro Airport, 5:47 a.m. The sky was the color of a fresh bruise. Torres' blacked-out Suburban screamed through the service gate, tires smoking. 2 cartel spotters in high-vis vests raised rifles. Torres never slowed. The bumper sent both men spinning into the chain link like rag dolls. Elias was already out the back door before the truck stopped, Selena half-conscious over his shoulder, for bag of O-negative swinging from his teeth. Torres tossed him a tactical vest. Elias caught it one-handed, never breaking stride. They moved like men who had nothing left to lose, because they didn't. Hangar 19 loomed at the end of the tarmac. A matte black Gulfstream G650, engine spooling, serpent crest painted on the tail. Jamal was somewhere inside. Lila too. And every second counted. Selena's voice rasped against Elias's neck. "Put me down. I walk. You've lost 3 units of blood." "I said put me down." He did. She swayed, but stayed upright, eyes locked on the jet. Torres handed her a suppressed MP7 and a syringe of military-grade epinephrine. She jammed the needle into her thigh without flinching, eyes going diamond hard. "That's my daughter on that plane," she said. "If I die shooting." Torres keyed his throat mic, all stations green light. "We own the sky in 60 seconds. Elias looked at him. "Who the hell are you really?" Torres smiled for the first time all night. "Delta Force, retired. Jamal saved my kid in Fallujah. I owed him a war." He tapped his earpiece again. "Reaper 1, you are cleared hot." Above them, the clouds parted. An MQ-9 Reaper drone decloaked at 12,000 feet, Hellfire missiles glowing cherry red on the rails. The cartel guards on the tarmac looked up too late. The first missile turned their Suburban into a fireball sun. Go time. They sprinted across open concrete, bullets sparking off the ground. Selena laid down surgical fire, 3 guards, 3 headshots, while running on a shredded leg. Elias vaulted a fuel truck, slid under the wing of the Gulfstream, came up inside the wheel well. Torres slapped a magnetic charge on the fuselage. 10 seconds. Elias climbed the gear strut like a monkey, ripped open the emergency hatch above the cockpit. Inside, 2 pilots, dead before they knew he was there, suppressed .45, double tap each. He dropped into the cabin and froze. Jamal was zip-tied to a rear-facing seat, face swollen, one eye shut. Lila sat on his lap, arms around his neck, silent tears cutting clean lines through the blood on his shirt. Mateo stood over them, pistol to Jamal's temple. Isabella lounged in a cream leather chair, sipping champagne, Desert Eagle on the table beside her. 10 cartel shooters lined the fuselage. Mateo smiled. Right on time, little brother. Elias raised his hands slowly. I'm here. Let them go. Isabella clapped like a delighted child. Look at you. Finally embracing your birthright. She stood, walked forward, trailed a finger down Elias's cheek. You were always the spare, she whispered. But spares can be useful. Jamal's voice was barely a thread. Eli, don't listen. Mateo pistol-whipped him silent. Lila whimpered. Elias's eyes never left Jamal's. I brought you a gift, Elias said calmly. He reached into his vest, pulled out the quantum deadman switch. Held it up. Every screen in the cabin flickered to life. Live feed. From the Reaper drone. Crosshairs locked on the Gulfstream. Isabella's smile faltered. Elias' thumb hovered over the trigger. Here's the new deal, he said. You let my family walk off this plane right now, or I drop 23 years of cartel secrets to every intelligence agency on Earth, and then Torres turns this jet into confetti. Mateo snarled. You'll kill your own brother? Elias looked at Jamal. Jamal gave the tiniest shake of his head. Elias smiled and pressed the button. Nothing happened. Mateo laughed. Bluff called. Elias's smile widened. Wrong button. He pressed a second one on his watch. The cabin lights died. Emergency strobes kicked on. Every single cartel phone in the cabin started screaming with alerts. Selena's worm, the one she'd planted in the building grid 12 hours ago, had just gone supernova. Bank accounts frozen. Shell companies exposed. Every safe house location broadcast on open channels. Interpol, DEA, and Mexican Marines converging on 3 continents. Isabella lunged for the Desert Eagle. Too late. The rear cargo door blew inward. Torres and 6 Delta Ghosts in full kit fast roped in, suppressed weapons coughing. 10 cartel shooters dropped in under 4 seconds. Mateo spun, firing wild. Jamal surged up, chair still zip-tied to his back, and head-butted Mateo so hard the man's nose exploded. Elias tackled Isabella, drove her face first into the carpet. Selena limped through the chaos, MP7 barking, clearing a path to Jamal. She sliced his zip ties with a combat knife, then Lila's. Jamal swept the little girl into his arms, buried his face in her hair. Selena collapsed against them both, all 3 shaking. Elias zip-tied Isabella's wrists, then stood over Mateo, who was coughing blood onto the aisle. Mateo looked up, one eye swelling shut. You think this ends it? He wheezed. The cartel is bigger then. Elias crouched, voice gentle. No, Dad, he said. It ends with you. He looked at Torres. Torres nodded once. The Delta team dragged Mateo and Isabella toward the cargo bay. Isabella screamed in Spanish, curses and promises and threats. Elias ignored her. He turned to Jamal. They stared at each other across the smoking cabin. 2 boys from an alley in Juarez who'd finally found their way back. Jamal's voice broke. You came. Elias stepped over bodies to reach him. I never left, he whispered. Not really. They crashed together, arms crushing, foreheads pressed, tears mixing. Lila wedged between them, tiny arms around both their necks. Selena joined, her wounded leg buckling. They held each other up. A family, whole for the first time in 23 years. Torres cleared his throat. We've got 90 seconds before this becomes an international incident. Chopper on the roof. They moved. Up the emergency ladder, onto the wing, then fast roped to a waiting Black Hawk. As they lifted off, the Gulfstream exploded below them, Torres's parting gift. A fireball bloomed orange against the dawn. Isabella and Mateo never made it out. The cartel's leadership died in a tomb of their own making. Jamal watched the flames, Lila asleep against his chest. Selena's head on his shoulder, fingers laced with Elias's. No one spoke until they crossed the Hudson. Then Jamal said very quietly, I thought I had to sacrifice myself to save you. Elias squeezed his hand. Turns out we save each other. That's the deal now. Selena lifted her head. Where are we going? Jamal looked out at the city waking up below them, then down at the little girl in his arms. Home, he said. The one we build ourselves. The chopper banked south, toward a future none of them had dared dream of an hour ago. Behind them, the news choppers were already circling the burning hangar, headlines writing themselves. Cartel empire collapses overnight. Mystery heroes vanish with child. Ahead of them, the sun rose gold and clean. For the first time in their lives, the Morales family was free. Manhattan, 30 hours later. The city was still on fire with the story. Every screen in Times Square looped the same 3 seconds. A burning Gulf Stream, a Black Hawk vanishing into sunrise, and a single frame someone had pulled from airport CCTV. Jamal King carrying a tiny girl with pigtails, Elias Grant shielding them both, Selena Vance limping but unbroken at their side. The headline underneath read, "Ghosts of Juarez End Cartel Reign in One Night." The world wanted names. The world got legends instead. But legends were done hiding. Rooftop of the old Grant Tower, now just the tower, because the name Grant had been sandblasted off the marble that morning. 9:17 p.m. The entire 47th floor had been gutted in 24 hours. Glass walls gone. Cubicles gone. Ego gone. In their place, a single long table made from reclaimed Juarez cedar, hand-carved with serpents that no longer devoured their tails. Instead, they cradled 7 stars and a whole crown. 300 folding chairs faced it. Every seat filled. Janitors who'd been spat on. Single moms who'd cleaned Elias's toilets for 12 years. Kids from the foster system Elias once crawled out of. Reporters who'd spent decades chasing ghosts. At the far end of the table stood Torres in dress blues, chest heavy with medals he'd never worn in public. He tapped a mic. The crowd hushed. Torres didn't speak long. Tonight isn't about billionaires or cartels. Tonight is about the people they forgot existed. He stepped aside. Jamal walked out first. No jumpsuit. No armor. Just dark jeans, white shirt rolled to the elbows, serpent tattoo blazing under the lights like it had been waiting its whole life for this moment. The room inhaled as one. He carried Lila on his hip. She wore a tiny leather jacket with Morales patched on the back. Selena followed, no longer limping, new carbon fiber brace hidden under black silk. Elias last, simple black suit, no tie, eyes red from crying happy tears for 48 hours straight. They took their places at the cedar table. Jamal set Lila on the tabletop, so everyone could see her. Then he leaned into the mic and spoke with the voice that once stared down a loaded gun. "My name is Jamal Cortez Morales. 23 years ago, my mother sold me for $3 million. My father shot me and left me for dead. My little brother ran with the money and built an empire on my grave." He looked at Elias. Elias stepped forward, voice steady. "My name is Elias Morales. I was a coward who chose money over blood. I became everything I hated because I thought that was the only way to survive." Selena took the mic next, voice like velvet thunder. "I'm Dr. Selena Vance Morales. I loved a ghost so hard I became vengeance itself. I hid my daughter from the world because I thought love made you weak." She reached back. Lila took her hand. "Turns out love makes you bulletproof." The crowd was already crying. Jamal lifted a thick stack of papers. "This is every shell company, every offshore account, every dirty deal Grant Global ever touched. Total value, $43 billion. Gasps rippled. He tore the papers in half. "Let them flutter to the floor like confetti. That money doesn't belong to us anymore. It never did." Elias stepped up with a single check the size of a billboard. He turned it to the crowd. "Payable to Morales Brothers Foundation. Amount, $43 billion. The room detonated. Elias had to shout over the roar. Every cent liquidated. Every stock sold. Every private jet auctioned. Every mansion turned into shelters. Selena hit a button. Behind them, the massive LED wall lit up with a live map. Red dots bloomed across the planet. Community centers in the Bronx. Clean water plants in Juarez. Scholarships for foster kids in 50 states. Trauma hospitals in every city the cartel ever bled dry. One by one, the dots turned gold. Already funded. Already building. Already changing lives. Lila tugged Jamal's sleeve. He knelt so she could whisper in his ear. Jamal laughed, wet, broken, healed. He took the mic again. "My daughter wants to say something." He lifted her up. Lila, 9 years old, unicorn patches on her jacket, looked out at 300 strangers and spoke clear as sunrise. "My daddy died so I could live. Then he came back. That means anybody can come back. Anybody can be a hero." She pointed at the crowd. "You're all heroes tonight." The room lost it. People stood on chairs. Janitors hugged reporters. Kids who'd never had a family sobbed in strangers' arms. Jamal waited for silence. Then he did the last thing the world expected. He stepped back from the mic, knelt on one knee, pulled a small black box from his pocket, turned to Selena. The LED wall behind them exploded into fireworks. Selena's hands flew to her mouth. Jamal opened the box. Inside, not a diamond. A simple band of Juarez cedar, inlaid with 7 tiny stars and a serpent that no longer ate its tail. It protected the circle now. "Selena Vance," he said, voice cracking. "I died loving you. I came back loving you more. Marry me. Again. For the first time. For the last time. Let's spend the rest of our lives proving love wins." Selena couldn't speak. She just nodded so hard her hair came loose. Jamal slid the ring on. The crowd hit decibels that rattled the windows. Elias watched them, chest so full it hurt. Then he felt a small hand slip into his. "Lila." She tugged him down to her level. "Uncle Eli," she whispered. "Mommy said you need one too." She held out a second ring box. Elias's breath stopped. Selena turned, tears streaming, and walked to him. Took the box from Lila. Opened it. Another cedar band, same serpent, same stars. "Elias Morales," she said, voice shaking with laughter and tears. "You gave up $43 billion for us. I'm only asking for forever." Elias dropped to his knees. "Yes," he choked. "God, yes." She slipped the ring on. The 3 adults pulled into a hug so fierce the table creaked. Lila wormed her way into the middle. The LED wall behind them changed one final time. A single sentence in gold letters. "The Empire is dead. Long live the family." Torres fired a flare gun into the sky. Over the Hudson, 1,000 drones formed the new Morales crest, serpent-cradling stars crown whole. The city saw it from every borough, and cheered like the war was finally over. Later, much later, when the crowd had gone home with deeds to houses and scholarship letters and tears that wouldn't stop, the 4 of them stood alone on the rooftop. Wind whipped cold and clean. Jamal opened a bottle of 1945 Macallan, the last one from Elias's old office. Poured 4 glasses. Handed the smallest to Lila, sparkling cider. They clinked over the city that had tried to kill them and failed. "To the ghosts who refused to stay dead," Jamal said. "To the love that brought us back," Selena added. "To the brother who never gave up," Elias finished. Lila raised her glass highest. "To my daddies and my mommy and our forever house." They drank. Somewhere below, a little boy in the Bronx looked up at the drone lights and whispered to his mom, "I want to be like them when I grow up." His mom kissed his forehead. "You already are, baby. You already are." The Morales family stood on the edge of the roof, arms around each other, watching their new empire rise, one made of hope instead of fear. And for the first time in 23 years, not a single one of them was afraid of tomorrow. 5 years later, June 10, 2030. Morales Community Center, South Bronx. 3:47 p.m. The courtyard smelled like fresh tortillas and chalk dust and summer. 1,000 paper lanterns floated above the playground, each one carrying a wish written by a child who used to believe wishes were for other people. Today was graduation day. Not just for the kids. For all of them. Jamal stood on the low wooden stage in jeans and a faded NYU hoodie, gray just starting at his temples, serpent tattoo now faded to soft ink that looked more like a promise than a scar. Beside him, Selena, hair twisted up with a pencil, lab coat swapped for a sundress the color of sunrise, held a stack of diplomas thicker than a phone book. Elias, no suit, just a linen shirt rolled high, wedding band glinting, stood at the grill flipping 200 burgers with the same hands that once signed billion-dollar deals. Lila, now 14, taller than Selena, braces gone, curls wild and free, bounced on the balls of her feet holding a cordless mic like she was born to it. She tapped it once. The courtyard hushed. "Welcome to the 5th annual Morales Family Day." Her voice cracked with teenage excitement and something deeper. "Today we celebrate every kid who walked through these doors thinking they were nothing, and learned they were everything." The crowd, parents, teachers, former janitors, ex-cons, Wall Street dropouts turned mentors, roared like it was the Super Bowl. Lila grinned so wide her cheeks hurt. "But first, tradition." She pointed to the far gate. A beat-up yellow bus rolled in, doors hissing open. 20 brand-new foster kids stepped out, wide eyes, backpacks too big, hearts too small. Every single person in the courtyard stood, clapped, cheered. Because every year on this day, the The Morales family paid forward the welcome they never got. Jamal stepped forward, knelt so he was eye level with the smallest kid, a boy with a buzz cut and a black eye that hadn't come from love. "Hey, Mijo," Jamal said softly. "You're home now." The boy's lip trembled. Jamal opened his arms. The kid ran into them like he'd been waiting his whole life for someone to catch him. Selena's eyes filled, but she was smiling too hard to cry. Elias handed the grill tongs to Torres, now head of security and unofficial grandfather to half the Bronx, and jogged over. Knelt beside Jamal. "Room for one more?" he asked the boy. The kid nodded shyly. Elias hugged him from the other side. Two dads. One heart. The courtyard lost it all over again. Later, when the sun dipped low and golden, the ceremony began for real. Lila took the stage again. "Today we graduate 211 kids into high school, college, trade school, or whatever dream they dared to dream." She started calling names. One by one, kids crossed the stage. Some cried. Some strutted. Some froze until Jamal or Elias or Selena walked out and held their hand the rest of the way. When the last diploma was handed out, Lila didn't step back. She stayed at the mic. "One more thing," she said, voice suddenly shy. She looked at her parents. Jamal raised an eyebrow. Selena tilted her head. Elias mouthed, "What did you do?" Lila grinned. "I wrote a book." The LED screen behind her lit up. Cover image. A little girl in unicorn pajamas standing between two men in a burning warehouse, a woman with fire in her eyes holding them all together. Title in gold letters. The Ghost Who Came Home. By Lila Vance Morales. Forward by Uncle Torres. The courtyard went dead silent. Then exploded louder than ever. Lila held up a hardcover. "Every kid here gets a free copy. Because every kid deserves to know the story of how three broken people became the strongest family on earth." She jumped off the stage, ran to her parents. Jamal caught her midair, spun her until she squealed. Selena kissed her forehead, then Elias's lips, then Jamal's. A family pile that drew every camera phone in the Bronx. Later still, when the lanterns were lit and the music was old-school salsa and the kids were dancing like nobody was watching, the three adults slipped away to the rooftop garden Elias had built on top of the original center. Tomato plants heavy with fruit. A hammock big enough for four. A plaque on the wall that read, "In memory of the night we burned everything down to build this." They lay tangled together, Jamal in the middle, Selena's head on his chest, Elias's arm across them both. Lila's laughter drifted up from below. Selena whispered, "We did it." Jamal's voice rumbled under her ear. "We really did." Elias traced the faded serpent on Jamal's arm. "Still think love wins?" he asked. Jamal looked out at the city, no longer a jungle, but a constellation of safe houses and second chances. He smiled the same smile that once stared down a gun barrel and chose hope. Every damn day. Far away, in a quiet cemetery in Juarez, a groundskeeper watered fresh flowers on two graves that had never held bodies. The headstones read, Isabella Reyes de Cortez. Mateo Cortez. Asterisk. They tried to break the circle. The circle broke them. Asterisk. Back in the Bronx, a little boy who'd arrived on the yellow bus that afternoon tugged on Torres's sleeve. "Sir, is it true the ghost lives here?" Torres knelt, pointed to the rooftop where three silhouettes swayed in the hammock, one smaller shadow climbing up to join them. "See that family up there?" he said. "That's the ghost. And he never leaves." The boy looked up, eyes wide as the sky. "I want to be a ghost too someday." Torres ruffled his hair. "Keep coming back here, Mijo. We'll teach you how." The lanterns rose higher. The music played on. And somewhere in the ether, every child who'd ever been told they were nothing looked up at the same sky and heard four words whispered on the wind. "You are enough. You are loved. You are home. Forever. Now, before you wipe your face and close this tab, do three things for me. 1. Drop the longest comment of your life. Tell me your city, your favorite moment, and what this story just healed inside you. 2. Smash that subscribe button so hard the bell cracks. This channel is about to become your safe place. 3. Share this story with one person who needs to remember that love always, always, always wins. Thank you for crying with me. Thank you for believing with me. See you in the next one. The Morales family is just getting started.